Guys, Boxing Gossip here. Monday night live phone-in show. I'm going to get Skype up and running in about 5 minutes or so. But before we do that, a few things to comment on briefly. First and foremost, thanks to everyone who's joined me live in the chat tonight. I can already see Terence, Nurse, Leon, Bart, Irish Tom, Ruben, Team Groves, Mikey. Let's have a look, see if there's anyone else. Paul and Mark. So good evening to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining live. Hope everyone's doing well. And I'm going to start, evening Jet, evening Sam. I'm going to start by announcing the winner of the glove giveaway. Now, for those who didn't watch, I did a competition for all subscribers where I picked 4 fights this weekend. Dave Allen versus Dillian Whyte, Carl Frampton versus Leo Santa Cruz, Tommy Coyle versus Tyrone Nurse, and what was the other fight? Warrington versus Highland, that's right. And if you predicted the outcomes of the fights, whoever got the most right would win this glove, which is signed by Johnny Nelson, as you can see. Lots of people got 4 right. Nobody out of the people who got all 4 fights right got the method of victory right in 3 of the fights. So I was left with 5 or 6 people who got all 4 fights right and only got 2 of the methods of victory right. And having compared and contrasted their answers, the one that I felt was most deserving of the glove, probably due to their prediction in the Whyte v Allen fight, is Team Groves. So, Team Groves, I could see you were in the chat earlier. Congratulations. If you want it, this glove is yours. I will send it out to you. My email address is boxinggossip@gmail.com. I know you've been a long-standing viewer of the channel, so I'm very, very glad it's going over to yourself. So drop me a line on Twitter, on Facebook, drop me an email, and I'll get it sent out to you as quickly as I can, mate. And yeah, message me on Facebook, Team Groves. That would be absolutely ideal. And I've got a few more signed gloves. I need to go into my wardrobe, but do you know what? I've got quite a few done for the channel, actually. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning more, hit that subscribe button, and there'll be some more signed gloves up for grabs in the near future. So yeah, once again, thanks Team Groves, thanks for the support, and congratulations. I think you deserve special credit for your Whyte versus Allen prediction. I think out of about 50 or so entries, I don't want to say a number because I'll get it wrong, but let's put it this way: very, very, very few people picked Dillian Whyte to win on points. So credit to you for that. Credit to you for that. Right, I'm going to load up Skype. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, there was Carl Frampton versus Santa Cruz this weekend. I know I've got a lot of stick coming on the podcast on Wednesday. I'm not looking forward to that. But there you go. I think one of the things that the podcast panelists needs to remember is that form is temporary, class is permanent. And, you know, we all get one lucky once in a while. But, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here and stand firm. We can discuss Frampton versus Cruz tonight. And I think one of the interesting things about Frampton versus Cruz, I saw it as a Frampton win. I did. And I picked Cruz to win the fight. I did see it as a Frampton win. But there seems to be some debate over this. Quite a lot of people are now coming forward saying Santa Cruz won. Now, I've only seen the fight once, and I thought Carl Frampton did deserve to win the fight. I did say in my post-fight video that I didn't think a draw would have been disgraceful. I could see an argument for having Santa Cruz winning 6 rounds, even though I didn't score him 6 myself. I couldn't see an argument for Santa Cruz winning the fight, but there's some debate out there. You know, I was watching Hatman's channel the other day, and Hatman's a channel I really like and respect, and he's very knowledgeable. And he said, I think, that he had Santa Cruz winning. So I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on that. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on Whyte v Allen. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on Tyrone Nurse and how far he can go. And I'm also interested in discussing Mikey Garcia, because a lot of people have come out saying Mikey Garcia did some world-class performance this weekend. Let me say, I completely disagree. I thought it was a very dubious performance from Mikey Garcia, and I want to discuss this. So look, I'm literally pulling up my iPad now. I have had 3 missed calls. So if you were one of the people who called in, I apologise for missing you. Do call in again now. Skype is up and running, and we will get you live on the channel right away. Paul is calling in, so bear with me for 1 second. Paul, how are you doing? Hello, Paul.
Hi there. Hi. Do I need to take my audio off my laptop?
Yes, please, mate. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind putting that on mute, just so we can't hear me coming back.
Nice one. Yeah, I thought I'd make some comments about Dave Allen.
Okay.
Because I probably, just like everyone, was kind of thinking he was a bit of a joke fighter, and I thought he'd just kind of fade away into nothing, because he seemed like a real kind of novice. But as Box Talk kind of said on their last video, Dylan Whyte really hasn't set the world right in his last few fights. Obviously, against Joshua, he rocked him a little bit and then kind of ran out of steam and had the injury. But what I was thinking about Dave Allen is, yeah, we think he's a 10-fight novice, and he was kind of giving it quite a lot of trash. Actually, he's learning on the job, and I suppose he might not think that being a pro is when you learn on the job, but someone else is learning on the job and really come out of it quite well. It's Tyson Fury. I mean, if you think of him after that.
Paul, I'm really sorry, mate. The line is terrible. Can we can you try and call back in? I've missed the last 20 seconds or so, mate.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hang on a second, mate. That's a bit better, actually.
Right. I've just moved around a bit. Yeah. So what I was saying is another kind of novice who was kind of learning on the job whilst being pro after relatively few amateur fights was Tyson Fury, and he seems to have come out quite well out of that, getting the world title. Because Dave Allen, of course, I think he had 10. Well, he's now at 11 pro, but he had 10 amateur fights.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly got a wealth of experience, but and actually he probably performed at the weekend as well as you would expect a 10-fight novice to perform. And you know, he didn't go down, he didn't get knocked down. He took everything that supposedly big puncher Dylan Whyte had to offer him. And yeah, just wondering if anyone else's thoughts about Allen have changed in that fight.
Yeah, do you know what? I've liked Dave Allen for a little while. I interviewed him on the channel, and I've spoken to him online a few times. But do you know what? His performance showed real signs of inexperience for me. He was very, very green. But you know, there's something there. There's something there, and I do feel I don't think he can go on to be a world level fighter or that sort of thing.
No.
But certainly, if you throw him into the mix of the Gary Cornices, the Ian Lewisons, the Sam Sextons, I think he can win those fights. Yeah. You know, I know he's coming back. Actually, he's coming back in like 3 or 4 weeks for another fight, isn't he? Which is I was surprised to hear, actually.
Is he? Oh, who's that against?
It's at Doncaster Dome. I think it's a 4 or 6 rounder, and it's not got an opponent. So I imagine it will just be a journeyman. But it's good for him to get back on the horse straight away, I think.
Yeah. Why do you think it was that the BBBC didn't want to give him the title shot for the British title? Did they just see him as I mean, is there a specific number of professional fights that you have to have had, or did they just not like his performances? Why not let him go for the British title?
I think there's a. I don't think there's a set rule in terms of number of fights or anything like that. I think that basically it came down to them having too many fighters ahead of him. I think number one, they had Sam Sexton ahead of him, and they wanted to force Sam Sexton to, to get the job done, rather than let Allen go straight in. For me, Whyte versus Allen was a British title level fight. I actually see both of them as British level operators. I actually see the golfing class between them not being that wide. I think if Whyte may be the better fighter at this moment, but I'd say both of them have got about the same upside for me.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a kind of, well, I'd say a better fight than I imagined it. I mean, I thought it would be a blowout by Whyte, but to see it go on, I was kind of half watching it when I watched it on kind of catch up. To see it go kind of 7, 8, 9, and then 10 rounds, I thought fair play to you. I mean, I'd forgotten that Allen had appeared on this show, and as I say, I thought he was a bit of a Jack the Lad kind of he'd have a short career and he's all mouth, but actually. When I saw him on, I heard him on your show, and I saw this performance. I thought, fair enough. He's given it all he's got, and I think he's come out with a fair bit of respect from that. All I'd say about I'll let you go soon and carry on about Frampton and stuff, because it's not all about the Whyte Allen fight. But what I would say about Sexton is that I don't know. He's lost against Price. He's lost against Chisora. He's not really beaten anyone amazing, and I would have thought that the British title might want to get a bit of progress, and move forward rather than back to kind of old guys that have challenged years and years ago.
I completely agree. Sam Sexton, since he's taken those bad losses, he's fought absolutely nobody, and I actually think Dave Allen's win over Gavern, even though that was a really ugly fight. That's arguably more than anything Sexton's achieved in his entire career, I've got to say. On the Dave Allen thing, briefly, I've spoken to Dave, and also I've heard him quite a lot on Ingram's channel, Bayloric, and the things that come across is, number one, the guy genuinely loves boxing. He's not one of these heavyweights who just trains. The guy he's actually knowledgeable about boxing. He's watched a lot of old fights. He knows a lot of what's going on in the sport. Some of the sparring stories are impressive as well. Apparently, he had Arthur Spilker down. He's sparred really well. Joshua Fury, Hellenius, Klitschko. The guy's got potential. It was and he's a kid. I think he's 23 or 24 years old. And if you're that size, you don't mature till you're a bit older. I don't think.
No. But one interesting thing I said is that he said he doesn't feel that he is a naturally large guy. Like walking around, if he didn't really put the effort into the weight training or whatever, he'd be, or eating or whatever he does, he'd be more like a cruiserweight or kind of smaller. And so that makes me think, why are you even in the heavyweight division? Maybe he thinks that the prize is more, as a heavyweight champion or a heavyweight boxer. Yeah,
I mean, it's that, isn't it? The money in heavyweight. It's funny, I did actually ask one of my friends, I did say, do you think Dave Allen could make cruiserweight? And the consensus was probably not, because, he's so solid in his legs and stuff. But do you know what? He weighed in at 6 stone 13, so that's still 2.5 stone above the cruiserweight limit. But it was still a lot of a spare tire there to come off. Let's put it that way. Still, so you never know.
And I suppose Whyte didn't look as chubby as he has done. It finally is beginning to. I mean, he was really running out of gas. Even though Whyte said in the interview that he wasn't tired, he did seem to be running out of gas. But I think he might have just trimmed off a few pounds since fights, because I kind of remember him as being a bit of a, as you say, spare tire, a real chubster compared to the likes of Joshua.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a photo of him the other day back from his kickboxing days, and the guy was actually in very good shape at one point in time. He'd be a weapon. I think he's still got 0.5 stone at least to come off. He's a very naturally powerful and large frame guy, but you just wonder, would his stamina be slightly better? Would there be a bit more snap in his punch if he cut out some of that fat? And I think maybe there would be. Yeah.
I mean, it works for Wilder, doesn't it? He's not particularly. I mean, what is he? 230, 235.
Yeah.
And he's more kind of tall, and he uses his speed and length of arms more than kind of weight behind the shots, and he properly puts people to sleep, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Power isn't just about weight, is it? It's about speed and strength, or speed and weight, and a combination of the two. And if Dillian Whyte lost half a stone, sure, he'd be a bit lighter, but if he was throwing a punch at 90 miles an hour, it would take someone's head off, I reckon. Yeah. But there you go.
Yeah, right. I'll leave you there then.
Great stuff, Paul.
I'll get back to my stuff.
Thanks for calling in. Nice to speak to you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Bye now. Thanks to Paul for calling in. First time caller, I believe. Jacob, I can see I missed your call when I was on the line to Paul, mate. If you want to try again now, the line is free if you're watching live, Jacob. So, yeah, good call from Paul. We were discussing Dave Allen versus Dillian Whyte. I think it's one of those losses, just like when Whyte lost to Joshua. He showed heart. Jacob's calling in. Let's get Jacob on. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm good, Tom. Calling in from Indiana in the middle of the USA.
What time is it there?
It is 4 p.m. here. I've got a little bit of time before I go to training myself, but wanted to call in, just weigh in. Okay, yeah, Frampton looked great. That arena wasn't even full, but it sounded full, apparently. Nestor Gibbs of the Boxing Voice was there, and he said it sounded louder than at the Thurman Porter fight at the Barclays, which was impressive. So, the Irish fans go crazy. But I guess I wanted to ask you, who do you think, who would you want to see him next? And B, who is he actually going to be next? Like Selby, Russell Jr., he said he wants no part of Rigondeaux. And also, what do you think of the fact that he wants no part of Rigondeaux?
I think he ducked Rigondeaux at the lighter weight class, and I think he ducked him for commercial and business reasons. And I can see why he did it. I've got to admit, if I was in his position, I'd probably do the same thing. I think he got paid something like best part of £2 million for, probably would have got 10% of that, to fight Rigondeaux. And he'd have probably, it's one of those, isn't it? It's risk versus reward. But who would I get now he's at featherweight? Well, I don't think Rigondeaux will come up to featherweight. I think Rigondaux's too small. But certainly the Lee Selby fight is a very interesting fight. I think that's a tough matchup for Frampton. I think Selby's back foot style would be very, very awkward for him. The Gary Russell Jr. fight, I actually see there being some similarities between Gary Russell and Carl Frampton. I see them identical fighters by any stretch of the imagination. But I think there's some similarity there. Definitely. Also, he really other Dave. And what about yourself, Jacob? Who would you like to see him fight?
I guess because if Frampton can basically pack he didn't pack the Barclays, but he set the Barclays on fire. If there's a domestic fight between him and Selby, what arena could they pack the O2? Like, that would just go crazy. Like, UK fans are so nuts. I mean, that fight would just go crazy.
I think they'd have to do it in. They'd have to do it in Ireland. I think in Belfast. Frampton, he's got a big support. I don't think too. And I don't think Lee Selby is a massive ticket seller. So I reckon they do it in Northern Ireland. That would be their best bet. Yeah.
Yeah, because he seems to be about the dollars, you know, while the spotlight's on him, which I don't blame him, of course. But, you know, when you're thinking that, like, I would not be surprised if, you know, a month later, we hear Frampton Selby announced, if anything, or Frampton versus some domestic British, because he knows he can sell there. He knows he can pack arenas there. I mean, he did New York, which no one would really expect. Like, the crowd was just off the chain. Anyway, also at that event, I know you have a rule against mentioning this guy, but Shannon Briggs literally chased David Haye through the crowd. There's a video of it.
Oh, I saw that.
He turned his back and ducked out behind his security guards. I can't believe it. What are we supposed to make of it at this point? He promised Briggs a fight if he fought on his undercard. He did it. He won in 1-2 rounds. Same thing. Haye did the same thing. Now what's the deal? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on Haye not responding to Briggs?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to anyone watching live who hasn't seen that, I believe it is on the Fight Hype YouTube channel. You can see Briggs approaching David Haye to confront him, and David Haye literally turning and running from Shannon Briggs. There's a lot of rumours I've heard, Jacob. I have heard that with Ruslan Chagayev being stripped of his title and that belt becoming vacant, I have heard that David Haye may well get a chance to fight for that vacant WBA regular title. And as such, he's avoiding the Briggs fight because he wants to keep himself free for that. I've also heard the way it works here in the UK is it's very hard to make big money if you're not fighting on Sky box office. And David Haye is not with Sky. Shannon Briggs is not with Sky. But our cruiserweight champion, Tony Bellew, is. And Tony Bellew has talked about fighting David Haye at heavyweight. And if that fight could be made, that would be on Sky pay-per-view on box office, which could be a massive payday for David Haye. So I think there's lots of other options that are available to him right now. The title option with the WBA, the money option with the Tony Bellew pay-per-view. That's what I think he's playing at.
Fair enough. Okay, because I was of the impression that Briggs was his biggest payday versus low risk, like biggest money, lowest risk option, because, you know, of the following Briggs has developed in the UK. Everyone knows him, you know, Let's Go Champ, all this. So I was just figuring, like, if Haye is all about the heyday, the heyday payday on Dave TV or whatever, like knocking out 3 bums in a row or whatever, you would think Briggs would just be a step above one of those bums to David Haye in terms of ability right now, given like what David Haye's 37, Shannon Briggs is 44. Who knows? You know.
I'll tell you what it is. You see, the revenue that David Haye can get from Dave is very, very small. They are not paying big money for fights, and because of that, he's tended to bring in real low opposition because he can get them on the cheap. Now, a guy like Shannon Briggs is obviously going to be expensive, and that's going to cut out the profit David Haye can make, because fundamentally he can sell out these shows and he can get that revenue for fighting nobody. So I think we'll only see him take the bigger fights and the tougher fights if he can do that on the Sky platform. And I don't think he's going to get access to that Sky platform unless he fights a Sky fighter, be that Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte, Tony Bellew. I just think there isn't the money in the broadcaster to make a big fight at present for him.
Gotcha. So those guys are Hearn fighters managed by Eddie Hearn, right? So what's David Haye's relationship with Eddie Hearn? Icy or like?
No, very good. Very good.
Okay.
David Haye is often brought in as a commentator for his shows. David Haye is often a pundit, you know, and that sort of thing. But because Haymaker's got his own promotional company, he doesn't want to sign a promotional deal with Eddie Hearn. So he's not turning up and fighting on Eddie's bills day in, day out. It's just that at present, you cannot fight on UK pay-per-view or it seems you cannot fight on UK pay-per-view unless you're an Eddie Hearn fighter or fighting an Eddie Hearn fighter.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. That kind of demystifies it for me, because I was just thinking, I was baffled by his ducking Briggs. I mean, I understand it. I understand it's a business, but I was struggling to find the motivation other than pure cowardice or true fear of Shannon Briggs, which I doubted David Haye actually felt. So
yeah.
But but I think I had one more, but it kind of slipped in my mind. Anyway, I gotta get going. Yeah, great show. Thanks for letting me call in, and hopefully I'll be calling in next week.
Do hope so. Really good speech, you, Jacob. Thanks very much for calling in, mate.
All righty, have a good one.
Likewise. Bye now. Bye. Got some good callers today, guys. Got Jacob and Paul who've already called in. 2 first-time callers, so that's really, really good. Lines are now free. If anyone else wants to give us a shout and call in. Yeah, that David Haye footage is worth seeing, actually. You do have David Haye quite literally fleeing from Shannon Briggs, which is bizarre. But, people who think that Briggs-Haye is a massive money fight, it's not a massive money fight, because you can't get big money, like real big money for a fight, unless you're on a pay-per-view platform. And I don't see the likes of Dave and the terrestrial non-pay-per-view channels giving David Haye, for example, David Haye got £1 million supposedly to knock out Arnold Jurjai. And I imagine he got Jurjai in for what, 20, 30, 40 grand, something like that. Imagine if he'd had to pay Jurjai £500,000. Then David Haye's, what he was taking from the event would be far, far less. And that's why I'm not sure about the Briggs fight. Because Briggs is a big name. Briggs is potentially going to be in a fight that ends his career. Briggs is going to want a big, big payday to take that, which doesn't incentivize David Haye. Anyway, guys, we're live now. We've got 50 people watching. If you're one of the 50, please do support the channel and hit the thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate that. That helps me spread this to a wider audience. And yeah, as I say, lines are free. So if anyone does want to call in now and we'll get you on straight away. We've already discussed, David Allen versus Dillian Whyte. We can go into that again. Carl Frampton versus Santa Cruz. Obviously, we're going to be discussing that on the podcast on Wednesday, but I want to know how people scored this fight. So if you're watching in the chat now, let me know what your scorecards said. How did you see that fight going? I had Frampton by 1 or 2 rounds in what I saw being a close fight. But a lot of people are contacting me saying they had Santa Cruz winning it. So Mikey said 115 to 113 Carl Frampton. I totally agree, Mikey. That was my scorecard. Foul Pole Boxing says the same, 115, 113. Team Groves had it 116, 112. Ben McGraw had it 7-5 Frampton. So, I mean, we're all coming in fairly consistent here, aren't we, people? We're all saying 7-5, 8-4. We've all got, bloody hell, Irish Tom's got it 118, 112. You need to go to Specsavers, mate. Potter's got it 116, 112. Struggle for a Name has got it 116, 112. Terence has got it 8-4 Frampton. We're being very, very consistent here. So nobody is saying Leo Santa Cruz won the fight. Absolutely nobody. Which is interesting because a number of people online are quite adamant that Leo Santa Cruz was actually robbed, which I don't see. You guys know I picked Leo Santa Cruz, so I'm not here to make the argument that Santa Cruz won the fight. But it's interesting. Some respected people in boxing quite literally see it as a win for Leo Santa Cruz. Josh J says even Dwyer admitted defeat on this one, so that's a good comment. Hello, Paul. Yeah, so I need to watch Dwyer's video. I love a bit of Dwyer, and I haven't seen that yet, so that'll be very, very interesting. But anyway, Mikey Garcia, people, let me know what your take on the Mikey Garcia fight was. I've seen a lot of people come out and say, "Oh, Mikey Garcia was world class. Mikey Garcia, is right back into the mix." I thought Mikey Garcia was woeful. I thought he was. I know he was rusty. I know he'd been out of the ring. What we saw was a guy who, as far as I could make out, was getting schooled in a boxing fight by his opponent. Quite literally, was getting danced around, out jabbed, having haymakers landed on his chin at will. Because Mikey Garcia was literally 3-4 weight divisions above this opponent, he was able to catch him and hurt him. And once he hurt him, the tiny opponent was never able to recover. But in terms of who showed the better technique, for me, it was the opponent. In terms of who showed the better jab, for me, it was the opponent. In terms of who threw the more eye-catching punches, it was probably the opponent. Mikey Garcia just had a huge size and power advantage. Irish Tom said he thought Mikey was very, very, very good. I mean, I'm fascinated to discuss this because I acknowledge that I am in the minority here. Everyone thinks that Mikey Garcia is very, very good. A lot of people are saying there's no one at lightweight who can deal with him. Bring on Mikey Garcia, Terence Crawford. I don't see it. Anyway, we've got Tom calling in, not Irish Tom, Northern Tom. Tom, how you doing? Hello, Tom. Tom? Yeah, try and call back in, Tom. But yeah, this people are saying Mikey Garcia Crawford. I mean, to coin a Dwyer phrase, you got to be kidding me. Mikey Garcia, firstly, he has no business at light welterweight. This is a guy who was the featherweight world champion. What's he doing at light welterweight? This was at a catchweight, I know, but in the light welterweight division, Terence Crawford against Mikey Garcia. I mean, you saw how that opponent, Elio Rojas, you saw what he was doing to Mikey Garcia on the outside. What do you think Terence Crawford would do? Seriously, I do not understand the hype. I do not understand the hype. So I want to talk Mikey Garcia. Mikey says Garcia beats Flanagan. Everyone says Garcia beats Flanagan. Why? I don't get it. For me, do you not think Flanagan would do a better job on Mikey Garcia than Elio Rojas? Iris Tom says Garcia cleans out lightweight. Why? Tell me, guys, why? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Because I don't see it. Just Jay says Flanagan versus Crawler, pay-per-view. I'm not sure, Just Jay. Two technical boxing styles, two nice guys with uninspiring personalities. It's hard. Pay-per-view is successful when boxing transcends the hardcore market and appeals to the casual market. I'm not sure it's a casual market fight. Yeah, BC, he hits hard. Yeah, the guy hits hard. But so would I hit hard if I was fighting someone 4 weight divisions below me. This Rojas was a featherweight. The size difference in the ring was ridiculous. It'd be the equivalent to saying, oh, Hughie Fury's a massive puncher if he was fighting Paul Smith. I'm exaggerating to prove the point, but what he seemed to do is throw. I didn't see. I certainly scored Mikey the first 2 rounds in favour of the opponent, and thought the opponent was winning the 3rd round until Mikey Garcia landed a punch, and clearly the guy has power. Clearly he's a threat in that sense, but I was not impressed by this. Defensively, he was woeful, and his timing was all off. Potter's right. So there we go, and I'm keen. Can somebody explain to me why this Mikey Garcia deserves to be in with Terence Crawford? Anyway, Tom's calling back in. Let's see if we can get him on. Tom, how you doing?
Evening, Tom. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Let me just try and adjust the volume. Speak again, mate.
Testing, 1, 2.
Very quiet, mate. I can hear you, but I doubt the viewers can. it's let me okay, try again, mate.
Will me okay?
It's hard work, if I'm honest, mate. I can't.
Tell you what, I'll leave it this week and try again next week. I'll try and get it sorted.
All right, I appreciate that, mate. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Cheers. Yeah, I couldn't really make out what Tom was saying there, so I doubt any of you guys watching would be able to, unfortunately. But we'll get Tom on next week, definitely. So yeah, I can see Jet's in the chat. Jet, if you're about, click on the hangout, mate. Let's get you on. Let's have a little run through some of these fights. We'll probably leave Frampton versus Cruz with Jet now, because be interesting to get his take on that on the podcast at the same time as everyone else. But maybe we can talk Mikey Garcia. Maybe we can talk Tyrone Nurse. Maybe we can talk some of the other fights that I think are interesting. Tyrone Nurse. How far do people think Tyrone Nurse can go? He's a fighter who frustrates me. I look at him and I see world-class attributes. World-class attributes, and I want to know what people view him. He's a frustrating fighter. Let me just write something. Jet's looking to join, which is cool. Mikey says Nurse will be a world champion for me. I hope so. He's got world championship attributes, but he constantly fails to use his skills, and he makes hard works of fights that he should be beating in far more dominant fashion than he is. Guys, lines are clear, so if you want to call in, get me on Skype now. Let's have a look. Jamie says Nurse never looked in trouble. Just Jay says Nurse is developing more and more. Mikey says as he gets more experience, he'll use his attributes to full expect. Ben says Nurse isn't world class, but would beat Burns. Let's have a look. Mr. Solitude says Nurse needs a doctor. There's a lot of talk about the Nurse versus Burns fight. Jet has joined. Jet, how you doing?
Yes, mate. Hello. You all right? The Cruz fanboys are in full.
I can't hear you, mate. I can see you're trying to speak. I can't hear you at all. That would be because I don't have sound on my laptop, wouldn't it? Sorry, Jet. Try again.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, you're live. How you doing?
Yeah, not so bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah. All good. Mate,
we're the Santa Cruz fanboys in full effect tonight.
I know, mate. I know. It's terrible, isn't it?
Up to Wednesday.
We'll leave that one to Wednesday. Let's talk about some of the lighter guys, Jet. Let's if you don't mind, let's start with Mikey Garcia, because I know I asked you this on Twitter the other day because I knew you'd have an opinion on it. But talk me through your thoughts on Mikey Garcia.
So, mate, I just made a video before you came on air, like about an hour ago, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And I felt, you know what? I can't help but agree with you to an extent. This Rojas guy was outboxing him, and I mean, Mikey Garcia, from the Mikey Garcia we saw, in the previous fights, and he was being talked about as a pound for pound, top 5 guy. He looked woeful to me. I mean, I wouldn't say woeful, but I mean, he looked very average. He didn't look like a sort of pound for pound level guy. He didn't look like a 3-weight world champion, which he was. And it's just disappointing. He's almost fallen off the face of the earth. I know he's 28. He's a fresh 28. He hasn't taken many blows. He's a big puncher, and he's a very, very good boxer. And, going back then, I would have picked him to beat Terence Crawford. I'll put it that way. But now, the level is so wide. He was fighting at light welterweight, but he made it pretty comfortably. He weighed in at 138. So he said in the post-fight interview, just to prove to himself that he could reacclimatize to the weight, that sort of stuff. And he said he's moving back down to lightweight to pursue a world title, and he's looking for Flanagan next. Flanagan's actually mandated to face Felix Verdeo next. So that's a big fight that he could potentially lose as well. So, it might be a big fight between Verdeo and Mikey Garcia, but I don't know if Top Rank will work with him anymore because Haye is a Top Rank player. But Mikey, he was. I mean, overall, to sum up the performance, it was bang average. It was nothing great, but nothing too bad. He's been out of the ring for almost 3 years. I understand. I understand that he has a lot of ring rust. I did tweet you as well. He has a lot of ring rust, but he has definitely depreciated from what he used to be for me. Unless he shows some serious improvements, he was getting hit flush, and I've never seen Mikey Garcia take those sort of blows that he was taking at the weekend. So it was very, very disappointing for me as a prior Mikey Garcia fan. And I think in his prime, what Irish Tom was saying, I think in his prime he would clean up at lightweight. That's my personal opinion. But certainly I know this is the sort of prime time that he'll get into his stride. But at this moment in time, it doesn't look like he's going to hit that anytime soon.
That's it. I mean, obviously he can improve for the ring rust and potentially getting a bit more active. But I mean, just got to see more. Just got to see more. Defensively, he was just so unaware, and he just looked like a fighter who had a lot of miles on the clock. I felt, which is not good to see.
Mate, I agree. Like, do you know what it was? I don't know if he had no respect for the guy's power or no respect for the guy in general, but he was just walking through in a straight line. He didn't cut off the ring well, and that's not what you see from Mikey Garcia. You normally see, very educated footwork, very educated movement, fast hands, blistering hand speed, really good punching power. You see basically all the stuff that I'd say possibly Terence Crawford was showing. You have that that in Mikey Garcia, and they were very evenly matched when they were coming up. And Terence Crawford was, is trying to establish himself at lightweight, and it's very disappointing to see. Very, very disappointing. It looks like he has slipped. Not a lot, but enough to say he's not on that sort of the radar, pound for pound, that sort of stuff. And I mean, if he can recapture the form, I understand it. It will take a while. Momentum is key in boxing, as you always say. So he's got that win under his belt. Hopefully, he can move forward, try and progress, try and improve. Get his sort of reactions there. As we all know, sparring is not the fight, the actual fight night. So you might want to get some top quality sparring. So it actually is like a fight night type scenario, and then try and be as active as he possibly can, and try and shake off this sort of ring rust, lack of momentum, that sort of stuff. But that's one we have to keep an eye on, I guess. We can't really sit and dwell on it too much. We've got to just trying to see how his development plans out.
I think they should get him out again straight away. I'm talking like in a month's time.
Yeah, no, mate, I agree. I said it to you on Twitter as well. I said he needs to get out like ASAP. He didn't take any meaningful blows. I know he got hit, quite often, but they weren't big enough punches to deter him. And it wasn't like he had significant bruising or cuts on his face. It wasn't like a Frampton, Santa Cruz war. So hopefully they do get him out in the next month or so, and just keep him active and just get him there, get him back down to lightweight, try and just push for a world title, get him high up in the rankings, win a couple of international sort of titles and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, did you by any chance, because I didn't see the fight, did you see the Paulie Malignaggi fight?
Yes, I did. If you want my input on it.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it at all, mate. I know what happened, obviously, but I'm keen for your take on it.
Yeah. So obviously, I'd done a whole rundown of the card on the Frampton Santa Cruz card, and he was fighting Bracero, I think that was his name, welterweight, and for the Brooklyn sort of welterweight title, something like that. And he won one-sided fairly comfortably. Some of the scorecards were a bit close, 96-94. I had him winning about 8 rounds to 2, something like that. I give the guy a bit of a rounds just out of credit. He was thereabouts. But as I said, I think Paulie needs to retire, I'll be honest. Paulie is very good or was very good at what he does. At this sort of level, he's very, very good because the guys are not in his league. But, you know, the sort of level he's moving up at, Sean Porter, Kell Brook, I know he hasn't faced Brook, but, you know, the cream of the welterweight division, I just think he's not at that level anymore because he doesn't have the punch power, and I think he has a lot of miles on the clock. So I think he needs to call it a day. And he's got a great job at Showtime, absolutely cracking job at Showtime. And you don't want to. I know he doesn't take too many punches, flush punches, and that sort of stuff. But if he's taking more like he did in the Sean Porter fight, you don't want to end up like Enzo Macronelli and James Toney with your speech slurred and that sort of stuff. We saw Enzo at the, you know, one of the recent Box Nation events. I think Liam Williams versus Gary Corcoran. He was slurring his words, man. It was bad. Like, you don't want to see Paulie that with all of his knowledge and insight. You know, he's one of the better sort of pundits and commentators in the sport. So, you know, I'd like to see him hang it up, and you know, he's getting some good money off that. So focus on that. But yeah, standard sort of win for Paulie at this level. He's all right, but moving up, he's not going to have it because he's getting on in age.
This is it. I know he's got a very sort of slick, technical, defensive style, but some of the fights I've seen him in more recently, his stamina isn't there in the same extent it used to be. And if he's getting tired in those later rounds, no matter how stylistically sound you are, I guess you're going to be taking blows. And it's interesting. I know Leonard Bundu is the European champion. I know he's got a big fight against Errol Spence, which he'll probably lose. But, you know, Malignaggi, Bundu, that's a competitive fight, and probably one I'd pick Malignaggi in. Maybe Malignaggi versus the Gavin Eggington winner for a European title. Maybe that's a fight that could be made.
Yeah, I mean, he's come over to the UK a few times as well, and he's fought on some Sky Bills, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. He fought for the fringe EU title. It's like the interim sort of EBU title. He fought for that title and he won it, so I don't know if he still holds it, but I mean, I personally think he needs to hang it up. He's got a good job. He's made some good money, and you know, he even said it in the Adrian Broner fight, I think it was, when I personally think he won the Broner fight, and he was saying how he got robbed and boxing politics and that sort of stuff. And for me, you know, he said, I make some good money in boxing. I work with you guys in commentary, and I think he's making good money in commentary, and he's enjoying his stuff. It looks like he enjoys himself behind, you know, outside of the ring, not just inside the ring. And I think he just needs to focus on that. We don't want to see, you know, we've seen it enough. Enzo Macronelli, those sort of guys. And I thought Enzo was a pretty good commentator, but he was slurring his words, and it's just, you know, you don't want to see that out of the fighters. I understand why they continue fighting. Enzo said he wants to go for a 50th fight, if you've not heard that, you know, quite recently. He said, I'm on 59 and want to go on to 50. But, you know, there's got to come a time and a place. I mean, even Roy Jones Jr., he said he's going to retire. He's not slurring his words yet. So he's a bit more fortunate than these guys. But I think that keeps him going. Like, I'm not at the level of, you know, thing anymore. And I think that Enzo Macronelli fight, you know, kind of gave him some false hope that, you know, he got knocked out, he can come back again. And, you know, he beat that MMA sort of fight in his boxing pro debut, and Byron Phillips, I think it was. And it's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing, and it does, like, you look at it, you put it into perspective, and you go, you know, these guys are human beings, they've got family to provide for, and, you know, it's damaging to their health. They're taking big blows, and they're not young anymore. They're not our sort of ages. They're, you know, double our ages. So, yeah, I'd like to see Paulie retire, I'll be honest.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's, if you don't mind, I'd be keen to talk the Tyrone Nurse fight, mate. And Eddie Hearn's come out and said that he thinks Coyle won the fight. So I guess, even though I'm sure you'll agree with me, I should ask, how did you score it? Who won on your card?
I thought Coyle won 12-0. No, I'm kidding. No, I thought Tyrone Nurse won 7-5 for me. I did just record a video as well with the Leeds bill, and as I said, Tyrone Nurse is a very, very frustrating fighter. Very frustrating. He, you know, his skills kind of remind me of Bradley Ski, if I'm honest. Very slick, very, very good. He can box on the outside. He can box on the inside. Bradley Ski, I don't think, can box on the inside as clever as Tyrone Nurse, but yeah, they're both very skilled. Great foot movement, blistering hand speed, good jab. Not so much power, but he's there or thereabouts. As in, I think he has enough power to grab your attention if you sit down on his punches. But he just got involved in a tear up for no reason, and I don't know if that's his heart or his mind telling him that. Like how Amir Khan gets involved in a tear up, or he's just not listening to his trainer. And I don't know, man. I really don't know. And it's very, 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 very frustrating because Tyrone Nurse has the potential to be a world champion with the skills and the attributes he has. Well, mate, he's fantastic. And you know what? If he sticks to his boxing, I reckon he could score Ricky Burns. If I'm honest, Ricky Burns, isn't what he is, isn't what he was a couple of years ago, and he's holding a the only WBA version of the world title at super lightweight or light welterweight. And I think he can win that fight. Jack Catterall is actually his mandatory for the British title, and that's a very, very tough fight. Obviously, he's with Frank Warren, so what broadcaster that will be on, I'm not sure, because I think Nurse and his team work quite a lot with Sky. But Coyle did, going on to Tommy Coyle, he did what he had to do. Very, very passionate, determined. He came forward. And he done a lot better than I expected him to do, actually. I thought Tyrone Nurse was going to, grab a lot more rounds of him. I think Tyrone Nurse gave him a lot of the rounds. But Tommy Coyle just came on, pulled the pressure on, and, did what he had to do. He's like a people's champion, I'll be honest. I said that in the video. He always gives the fans a good fight. But sometimes, skills pay the bills, so to speak. So, that's my views on that. I'm not sure what your views are.
Yeah, I broadly agree, mate. It's interesting. I look at Tyrone Nurse. He's 26 years old. He's already had 37 fights, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't carry much power, so we've seen him go the distance time and time and time again. In those 37 fights, he's never been stopped. So he's a guy who's got huge experience going late in fights. He's a guy who's come through adversity. He's a guy who's shown heart and chin. And he's been in some real good fights, Coyle, Chris Jenkins 1, Chris Jenkins 2, Dave Ryan, Tyler Goodgeon. He's really been there, done that. And 37 fights for a 26-year-old is a lot of fights. I'm thinking the Burns fight makes sense. And I'll tell you why. For a start, it's a winnable fight for both guys. Ricky Burns could take the fight as like a homecoming fight to Glasgow, try and sell a load of tickets against a domestic opponent and take the majority of the revenue. Could be a nice little earner for Ricky Burns in a winnable fight. Tyrone Nurse will take it because it's the biggest opportunity available to him by a million miles. And Eddie Hearn gets to keep the belt in the stable. Whether Eddie Hearn wants Nurse to fight Catterall, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that Ricky Burns fight does actually get made. And I think Tyrone Nurse probably beats Ricky Burns, I've got to say.
Yeah, no, mate, I agree. I agree with you. I just think the only problem with Tyrone Nurse is if he gets caught up in a tear-up. I think if he does that, that might play into Ricky Burns' favour a bit. But, he stays from the outside and boxes him. He can do a real number on Ricky Burns. I'll tell you that now. He's very, very skilled, and I don't think I'm the only person that thinks that. I may assume you think that too. He's got serious skills, and I think loads of people in the chat agree as well. So,
Mikey's saying if Nurse schools Burns in Scotland, it'll be class. And he says, get in BG and Jet, two lads who think Nurse beats him. I'm convinced. I really, really rate him, mate. Do you know who he reminds me of? One of my favourite fighters to watch is Malik Scott. I think Malik Scott is like a supreme boxer with supreme skills. And I see Tyrone Nurse in the same category, like extremely frustrating, but has the potential to go places if he's handled correctly.
Yeah, the only thing I think he's got a bit more of than Malik Scott is he's got a lot more heart and a significantly better chin.
Yeah.
Skills-wise, I see where you're coming from. Tyrone Nurse just very frustrating. I just think sticks to his boxing. I don't know if that's a trainer thing. I don't know if that's the red mist coming down, but yeah, he needs to get rid of that. It's frustrating because he should have beat Tommy Cole pretty easily on Saturday, but he made I think he knows deep down he made hard work of it. Even the Chris Jenkins fight and previous fights, Willie Limond, I think he made it a bit harder for himself as well. It's a habit. It's a pernickety habit that he needs to get rid of. And I think if he does, he can very well easily beat Burns.
Absolutely. Irish Tom says in the chat, Burns versus Nurse. What is it with all the? What is all the story with all these hospital puns? Is decent. It's quite a few weeks coming up, isn't it? I know we got Andre Ward fighting, but it's a quiet few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much going on. That's the problem. I mean, the next sort of, not big event, but the next standout event, I'd say, just of any note, is Kell Brook Golovkin, and the press conference in London was today, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Well, remind me when Brook Golovkin actually is?
September 10th at the O2 London.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm not sure if you saw the head-to-head. Kell Brook's cheeks look absolutely massive, like potatoes on his face. He looks like completely bloated. I don't know if that was just me. I don't know. I thought he looked completely bloated.
It's so odd. Bodies are so different to different people because it's funny. If I put on a few pounds of fat, it would instantly go to my face. I'm the sort of guy I can be in quite good shape but have a little bit of a double chin, and I think Kell Brook must be the same because he looked fat in his face, and but I don't know if you saw the photo of them shirtless, and he did look very, very good in when he took his top off. He looked like he was in not too far off fighting shape already.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Kell Brook, he's doing what he needs to do. He's getting a massive payday. He's moving up in weight, trying to make a legacy, whatnot. Him and Amekon, credit to them. But I mean, I've seen a lot more people coming out slating Golovkin. But yeah, let's not make this about Golovkin Brook. I mean, there's a few other things. Canelo Smith is the week after, I think. Gonzalez versus Carlos Cuadras is also on the undercard or something like that. I think that's a standalone event as well on HBO. So, I mean, September's a good week. I think the week after that is Linares, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another good fight as well. There's a lot of good stuff going on. I mean,
when's Linares? Is that August or September?
No, September, mate. September. I think that's on the 24th because they were planning to make that. From what I heard, Eddie Hearn was planning to make it pay-per-view. But, they had so many different events, Eubank Jr. and Kell Brook Vargas. So they were going to have the two, and then obviously Crawler in the middle. But Crawler's not a pay-per-view fighter, so I think he kind of got rid of any idea of pay-per-view pretty early. So they're going to have, I'd assume the undercard will be pretty thin, and that will be the main event. But, that's a top fight within itself, Crawler Linares. A really, really good fight.
It is, yeah. It's not a pay-per-view fight for me, but it's a good fight. Mikey says Usyk versus Glowacki. Is that September? Yeah,
September 17th, I think. They're all on my birthday, which is quite a good one. That's quite a treat. So
yeah, that's it. No birthday night out for you. It's going to be sat glued to the TV.
Yeah, mate. I mean, that's a fantastic fight. I mean, we were talking briefly on the podcast about Usyk Glowacki, and I think Usyk wins the fight. I was watching one video that Sherry retweeted, and I retweeted as well on Twitter. Him and Lomachenko, something they do is fantastic, mate. Like, so what they do, the guy's standing stationary. Yeah, let's imagine it. And they pump the jab out, or they punch. They put a punch out, and it's just to the left or the right of the opponent's head. But when they bring it back, they push the opponent's guard down, and then bring a combination in, and it just looks fantastic. I mean, it's real advanced stuff because you obviously can't take the person's guard down. It's just some of the things they do, mate. Fantastic. They're on another level, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'll try and check that out, mate. That's interesting.
I'll send you the link. Yeah, I'll send you.
Yeah. I'd like that. Yeah, definitely. Is Billy Joe on the Canelo Smith undercard, mate?
Mate, Mikey said he heard he was fighting Rosado. I heard that too as well. Rosado said he was interested, and I think you told me as well. They put him on the bill, or they said he was appearing on the bill. They took him off, then they said he might come back on. But then Box Nation said, and Frank Warren said he's going to have his own standalone event. And then they talked about Hassan and Dam, Austin Trout was an outside choice, Rosado was a choice. And to be fair, the WBO rankings at middleweight, they're no gimme. There's a lot of, good fighters in there as well. Cat Stevens is in there. Ryota Murata, who's a Japanese prospect, he's there. So there's a lot of solid sort of names there. Max Bursak, I think, is still in there, but they haven't rescheduled that one. They just completely cancelled it. So, mate, I haven't really heard it. The only rumor I'm continuing to hear is that Canelo, if he comes through the Liam Smith fight, will go after Billy Joe sometime around December, if not the new year. That's what I'm hearing. And if not, if he wins that fight, he's going to go after Golovkin September 7, 2017 and unify all the titles. But I don't believe any of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'd like to fight Billy Joe Saunders to get another title. And part of me thinks they do want the Golovkin fight, but they just want to delay it as much as possible so that Golovkin gets older and older and older. And then they try and catch him at the right time. I think the Billy Joe Saunders fight is a real nightmare. If Billy Joe gets himself, do you think they'll make that fight at 160?
I think he'll be at 160. I'll be honest, but Billy Joe said he can make 158 if I'm correct. So
I actually think it'd be better for Billy Joe. Not obviously Billy Joe's a bigger guy, but I think it would be no bad thing for Billy Joe to make 158. I think he could.
I think he made 154. Sorry to cut you off. I think he made 154. If I'm honest.
Yeah. I don't disagree. He said time and time again he wouldn't be able to make it, but I've been there at his weigh-ins when he's weighed in at 160, and he's not exactly. There's more stuff to come off at the weight. It's just that he doesn't live the life. Once again, we've seen him blow up absolutely massively, haven't we? Between the fight, which is disappointing, and it will unfortunately catch up with him at some point. But then, what
was I gonna say? What were your thoughts on the Josh Warrington versus Patrick Hyland fight? If you don't mind us talking about that.
Yeah, no, of course, mate. I thought it was probably the best performance of Warrington's career, actually. I thought he looked really, really good. To be fair to you, I know you were saying from the start it was a horrible fight. I thought it was more competitive. But Warrington has consistently improved, and he's raised his game to a point now where I have to admit he is fringe world level. He's fringe world level, and he's fighting with more authority. He's fighting with more confidence. There's more snap in his punches. I think his boxing fundamentally has improved. And let me put it this way: the Josh Warrington who beat Patrick Hyland destroys the Josh Warrington who was fighting on Sky 18 months ago. What's your take on it, mate?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but the problem is Patrick Hyland was terrible, mate. I thought the fight itself was, for the first 6 or 7 rounds, I came back from work and I was working about 12 hours. So I came home, I was obviously pretty tired. Watched it, sat down with my cousin, and after the Dillian Whyte Dave Allen, I thought that would be a good fight, and obviously it wasn't. This fight, it almost put me to sleep. I was falling asleep. That's how bad the fight was. But Josh Warrington, I did give him every round up until he got the knockdowns. And I said before, I'm not gonna shy away because of I got the Leo Santa Cruz one wrong. We all get some wrong. And Patrick Hyland for me is a Southern area English or British type level, depending on how you rate him. I don't rate him any higher. He's absolutely awful, and You know, Josh Warrington did well, showed some good skills, but, you know, fundamentally, and I agree, he is at a Euro sort of fringe world level, but for fundamentally, against us top guys at featherweight, so Frampton's just won a world title. I think Frampton schools him and probably stops him late. You know, Selby, they're obviously talking about that fight. Selby beats him for me. I know he's number 1 in the WBC rankings. Not mandatory yet, but, you know, he's number 1. Russell will absolutely decapitate this guy. And I think Oscar Valdez will do the same as well. But, you know, against the sort of fringe world level guys, the guys below him, you know, you have a fair few guys. Jason Velez, maybe Abner Mares. He might be slightly competitive in those. I don't know if he'd win those, but he'd be competitive in those. I think he has improved significantly. But, I mean, it's just hard to rate him. I know they're talking about world titles, but, you know, beating Patrick Hyland is not, you know, a route to a world title for me. He has some decent wins on. I think that was a step down from Malignaggi, in my opinion. Malignaggi's not great, but, you know, that was certainly a step down. But, you know, he has some semi-decent wins on his record. Enough to get, I'd say, a final eliminator or something like that. Something of that note. But I don't know. You know, Eddie Hearn, he makes a shit ton of money off him. Let's put it that way. Let's be honest. And, you know, Carl Frampton, Lee Selby, these sort of guys, they can come over to Leeds or they can fight anywhere in the UK, most likely Leeds. But, you know, they'll make a killing of the domestic fights for me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if Gary Russell vacates that belt, do we know who Warrington would have to fight to get the vacant belt?
Well, he's number 1, and I'm going to check the rankings right now. So, yeah.
Because I just think Selby, 12-0s him.
Yeah.
And I think Selby does it in such a fashion that destroys Warrington's credibility going forward.
Mate, you took the words right out of my mouth, honestly. He will absolutely embarrass the guy. Like, I don't even, look, Selby's not a big knockout artist or anything like that, but he definitely has enough snap in his punches, yeah, let's put it that way. Because of his timing and his accuracy. I think people, when we, us sort of boxing analysts say they have snap in their punches, we mean it because fast hands, timing, accuracy. And, you know, Lee Selby, compared to the guys he's facing, he has elite level accuracy, elite timing, and fast hands. And at a top level, Josh Warrington is going to get killed at the top level because fundamentally, you know, he has a bit of a lateral body movement, but he has no head movement. He comes in a straight line most of the time. Fundamentally, his, you know, punch selection isn't as good as the top guys. Punch variety also, and you know, his footwork is a bit sloppy, and it's just hard. It's just hard to see him progress past that. Some fighters you see a ceiling to. I think Box Talk was talking about this as well. You see like a limit or a ceiling. And someone like an Oscar Valdez, you don't really see a limit, or a Lomachenko, you don't see a limit. People like Josh Warrington, I know he's on a much lower scale. You see a ceiling, and you know you would rate him accordingly. And I just think that's what you were maybe referring to. But I'm pulling up the rankings now. He is number 1. Joseph Diaz is an undefeated prospect, American prospect if you've heard of him. He's a really, really good prospect, and I think it'd probably be those two, and I think Joseph Diaz will kill him, if I'm honest. The other sort of guys, you know, Gary Russell Jr. has faced one of the guys at number 5, Castellanos. The other guy, Kiko Martinez, is there at number 13, and you know, at featherweight, at featherweight. WBC number 13, Kiko Martinez.
He's got no business. Super bantam.
Yeah, mate. I agree. I totally agree. Oh, so I saw this the other day. I don't know if it's of interest to you. Liam Walsh has got a IBF eliminator or final eliminator. I'm not sure what it is, but he's got an eliminator of some sort with the IBF against Andrei Klimov, who lost a vacant world title bid against Jose Pedraza, actually, a couple of fights ago. Your thoughts on that? Harrow Leisure Centre, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's interesting. I thought it was in abroad somewhere. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, well, that's what I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's confirmed, but
No, I saw it, mate. No, you're right. You are right. Liam Walsh versus Andrei Klimov, 19-2 at the. Let me just check Ryan Walsh, because I think he was announced in some fight as well, and maybe Yeah, this is it. So Ryan Walsh is travelling to Denmark to fight for the EBU title against Dennis Kalin. So that's the one I was getting confused about.
Okay.
So they both got fights. Liam Walsh is superb. I am so frustrated watching Liam Walsh's career. I attended one of Liam Walsh's fights back in the day. I've actually been to 2 of his fights. I saw him fight Domenico Urbano in 2012, and then I saw him fight Scott Harrison in 2013. And after I saw him fight Scott Harrison, I thought, right, he's just won the WBO European. He's clearly a sort of guy who seems to have a skill set above British title. Let's see him push on and get to the next level. And then since then, we've seen him face Joe Murray, Kevin Hooper, Gary Sykes, Joe Murray again, Troy James. Yeah, I've just felt the guy needs a bit of a push. He's 30 years old. He's not getting any younger, and I just kind of am desperate to see him in a big fight, because he needs to have the opportunity his skill sets deserve. Now, Andrei Klimov, I must say, I can't picture the guy off the top of my head. I can't instantly recall watching one of his fights. What I'll say is it will take a very, very good fighter to beat Liam Walsh. He's a world-class technician as far as I'm concerned. And if we look at that division, like the super featherweight division, I know BoxRec have Stephen Smith ahead of him, and they've got other guys like Martin Ward and Mitchell Smith around him. I think Liam Walsh is a far better fighter than Stephen Smith. And if we actually look at the sort of the world rankings in that, for me, super feather is actually a weaker division than featherweight or lightweight. I know Lomachenko's moved into the weight class, which has kind of sent a bit of shockwaves through the division. And I know obviously you've got like Nicholas Walters and Salido, but I just think Liam Walsh may be able to do something in that division. What's your take on it?
Yeah, mate, a good fight. You know what? It's like a measuring stick. If Liam Walsh can, get Klimov out of there, it'll certainly make a statement in the super featherweight division. The super feather division is a very good division globally in terms of the names. As you mentioned, 3 of them: Salido, Nicholas Walters, Lomachenko, Martinez might be there. I think he's moving up to lightweight soon. Francisco Vargas is there. Uchiyama lost his title. Corrales won. Fortuna lost his title. Jason Souza. There's a few semi-decent sort of names. Takashi Miura obviously faced Vargas in one of the best fights of the year last year. So, or the year before against Cotto Canelo undercard, sorry. So, it's a good thing, but I think he can win a world title, Liam Walsh. He's so skilled. He really is. I think it's sort of the Jamie McDonald, Gavin McDonald. He's the better, the much better brother in terms of skills, talent, everything. Overall, him and Jamie are much better than their brothers. And, Liam Walsh is going to go really far. I think he fought up at lightweight a few fights ago, I think, as well. So he can kind of float between the weights. So if an opportunity does come up, he's able to, acclimatize and really adjust, which is good. But Frank Warren really needs to push this guy. I know he's fighting a big fight, but it shouldn't be at Harrow Ledge Centre. No disrespect. Very, very small venue. I've been there, in my youth. It's absolutely tiny. He needs to be pushing this guy, maybe at like Wembley Arena or something like that, a decent sized venue, and get him out and get him some real exposure. Same with Bradley Skeet. I think we both have been saying this and banging on about it for long enough. They're so skilled, but they're just not given enough exposure. And I think that's the problem now with Box Nation. The exposure's kind of dried up, and especially with, Sky. And I think what Cyclone are doing with... Frampton, sorry. I think Box Talk were talking about this. I love their content, and some of the stuff they were talking about, very smart, very articulate, is that Cyclone have actually been very smart. They've sent him off to they were obviously with Sky before. He was with Sky Box Office for Scott Quigg. He's on Box Nation for this Leo Santa Cruz fight. He was on Channel 5 the fight before that. He was on ITV against Chris Avalos. So he's had massive exposure, UK based and globally. So and you heard the fans in Brooklyn. They were crazy for Carl Frampton. So I think Frank Warren really needs to take a leaf out of their book and kind of not send him off, obviously, because he's a Box Nation fighter, but find different avenues for them to get exposure. Maybe online on their Box Nation channel, on Twitter, Facebook, various types of social media, and just get them out there a bit more.
Do you know what? I totally agree. And one of the ones I was speaking to Ultratech Sports about this the other day. If you look at Prince Patel, right? I know Prince Patel isn't a world-class fighter, but can you imagine where his career would be right now if Eddie Hearn had signed him after that interview? Prince Patel would be constantly fighting 4-rounders, 6-rounders just before main events. He'd be all over the media. Frank's signed him and then sort of forgotten about him. It's the same with, I don't know if you remember Romeo when he first came onto the scene. A lot of hype around him. A lot of talk about him, and he was a very marketable guy. He was a bit of a dislikable character, which always sells well, and he's just disappeared off the face of the planet. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I'll tell you what, mate. I was looking at this Frank Warren Box Nation stable. Let me say, this stable, it may not have the star drawing power of Eddie Hearn's, right? You may not have the Joshuas and the Kell Brooks and, the James DeGales, but some of the names in this stable, I mean, just to talk it through, we've already discussed Liam Walsh. Ryan Walsh is obviously another guy with an upside. Bradley Skeet, potential world champion. Hughie Fury, potential world champion. Mitchell Smith, if he sorts himself out, he can get there. Tom Baker, I believe he's a world-class prospect. Anthony Yard, very highly rated. Liam Williams, potential world champion. Zolani Tete, definite world champion. I mean, there's real strength and depth in that stable. And then you've got the headline fighters, the Liam Smiths, the Billy Joes, the Flanagans. That's not a bad stable Frank has amassed at present.
Talent-wise, yeah, mate. They have a serious amount of talent. Some of their youngsters as well, like they have some decent sort of youngsters, and then they have the sort of less glamorous names that the hardcores know. Jamie Conlon, I don't rate Jamie Conlon, but he's there. Paul Butler, those sort of guys that are go under the radar, but the hardcores know a lot about. So talent-wise, in terms of the actual core talent, as you said, Tom Baker, those sort of guys, very, very underrated. But they're really, really good talent-wise, really, really solid. And Eddie Hearn, he has the more glamorous names. There's some good fighters in there as well. Don't get me wrong. Anthony Crawler's in there. He's not the sort of glamour name that AJ is, but he's a very good fighter in his own right. And you have a few other fighters as well. Obviously, James DeGale, he's probably the best fighter at 168. Most people say that. So and then you have obviously AJ, a glamour name. Eubank Jr., another name. So, there is a contrast, but Frank does have a lot of talented fighters. It's just what he does with it is very disappointing. That's my overriding problem with it.
He seems to get like the less marketable fighters. I mean, I'm a huge Billy Joe Saunders fan. I'm a huge Hughie Fury fan. But let's be honest, there's very little chance that either one of those guys ever really selling out an arena or something like that. It's the same with Terry Flanagan, unfortunately. It may even be the same with Liam Smith. Bradley Skeet is another one. The Walsh brothers are another one. There's not... Isn't it terrible that if you put all of Frank Warren in a stable, could any of them sell more tickets than Conor Benn? I doubt it.
Mate, Conor Bennett is a bloody huge ticket seller. Some of the sort of mid-tier names, I think, sell less tickets than people like O'Hara Davis or those guys. it's a shame. It really is. I mean, I was banging on about it quite a few weeks ago to you on the live show or on the podcast. Can't remember. But Liam Smith against Predrag Radosevic, was it? He'd done less, or like 1,000 or less tickets in the Liverpool Echo. And Liverpool Echo, as we know, it's not a small arena. It's a decent-sized arena. And, you know, to have a world champion, you know, headlining and defending his world title in his hometown, in his home, basically, and he has less than 1,000 people watching it. And let's say O'Hara Davis possibly gets, you know, the same amount of people coming to his fight, buying tickets for him. You know, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. It's terrible. And if you look at Tony Bellew versus Maccabi, that showed the power of Eddie Hearn and the power of Sky and the power of that promotion. Bellew Maccabi, you'd think would be a comparable draw to Liam Smith versus Radosevic. And I think, how many tickets was it that Bellew did in the end? Was it
17 or 18,000, something like that.
Yeah, so we're talking like the difference here is, you know, it's like it's totally it's different levels. It's different levels, you know, at the minute, which is unfortunate, really. But there you go, mate. I'm flagging a bit, I must say.
Yeah, mate, looking a bit worse for wear, man.
Very early start this morning. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm just going to say I look forward to speaking to you on Wednesday because I'm slightly dreading the podcast. But yeah, you're about this Wednesday, right?
Yeah. I'm working very early in the day, so I'll be home and get a bit of stick for sticking up for Santa Cruz this week. But you know, we all get some wrong, so it can't be the end of the world, and it will be some fun stuff. Let's put it that way.
That's it. You win some, you lose some, don't you? So there we go, mate. But mate, thanks as always for calling in. Appreciate it. And for anyone watching, please do head on over to Jet's channel, the Boxing Discussions channel, and hit the subscribe button there. And you can always catch Jet on our Wednesday night podcast as well. So Jet, thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate that, mate.
Cheers. Bye now. Bye. So I'm going to wrap things up pretty swiftly because I've ran out of time. I'll just go into the chat. Bullet Truth says, BG, did you get a left hook to your nose? I did break my nose from a punch, and I don't mind telling you guys it was my brother who did it to me. It's a long time ago now, but yeah, still not in the best of shape. Let's have a look. Too Fast Fury says, Dwyer on the podcast. I wish. That would get me a few views, wouldn't it? Mark says, talk Spence Bundu. Bundu's a very good fighter. He's very durable, very tough. Can you really see him beating Errol Spence? It's a good learning fight for Errol Spence. It's an intriguing fight. The main thing for me is, will Spence be able to stop him? Bundu's not getting any younger. I think Spence will be able to stop him. It's an interesting fight. Irish Tom says, bring on Wednesday. Yeah, mate. I'm slightly dreading it, but look forward to it. Had a few guys are laughing that Adam Smith broke my nose. Yeah, Adam Smith has gone into hiding, guys. He's too big time. He's too big time. His appearance fees have got too excessive, so I've had to bring in lower end analysts like Irish Tom, who I can afford on my payroll. So there you go. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's watching. I'm going to wrap it up now. So thanks to Matt, Mikey, Bullet Truth, Potter, Irish Tom, Jet, Matt, Too Fast. Too Fast says, your brother is 100 pounds. He's very skinny, but my brother's 6'5", 6'6". So he's a bit more than 100 pounds. And thanks again to all the callers tonight. Yeah, we had some good callers earlier on tonight. So there we go. John Dope says, what's the better fight, Ortiz Ustinov or Parker Dimitrenko? I'll go Ortiz Ustinov. I think Ustinov's better than Dimitrenko, and at this stage, I think Ortiz is better than Parker. Ben says, good show. Cheers, Gossip. Cheers, Ben. Cheers, Mikey. Randeep says looks forward to Wednesday. Cheers, mate. Thanks very much. Cheers, Mike. Yeah. Brennan says thanks, Gossip. Nice. So Iris Tom says ciao all. Bullet Truth says what is Wednesday? What's happening? Bullet Truth every Wednesday at 8:30. We do the podcast live. So I've got a call coming through. I can't take it, I'm afraid, because I have to head off. But I hope you can call back in for the next show. So yeah, Bullet Truth podcast Wednesday 8:30 live on the channel. If you don't want to miss it, hit the subscribe button so you'll get a notification. Also add me on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll get in touch. So Team Grove says thanks again for the signed gloves. No worries, mate. I've got your Facebook message. I haven't responded to it yet because I've been obviously doing this show. But yeah, it will be out to you. Potter says class viewing too. Tune in, Bullet Truth. Thanks very much, Potter. Very kind of you to say. Guys, I will leave it there for now. Sorry to anyone who's tried to call in and hasn't got through. Make sure you call in nice and early next week. Always good to get new callers involved. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Appreciate you watching. If you're watching this not live, you know, if this has been pre-recorded, please do take the time to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out on my end. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good evening all.